What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, we're looking back at the infamous Watch Dogs. Now, I have so much to say. I'm not going to clock myself in terms of time. We'll see how long this goes, but buckle in, because I think this is honestly going to be a pretty fun video. This game was notorious, right, when it released, and I have a lot to say even about my own thoughts, but there's also the internet's thoughts. And when you think of Watch Dogs, I think you think to that infamous E3 period, right? Ubisoft shows it off, and this is where my story with the game started, right? When they revealed this thing, it looked like the greatest thing on planet Earth. And, you know, I say that kind of jokingly, but also kind of not. The game looked phenomenal, and what you were doing in that gameplay little slice looked amazing. It was pitched as like this true next-gen game. It was believed to be this next-gen game. We were sold on it, and when it came out, I honestly hated this game. Gotta be real, it's actually such a big part of this video and why I call it redemption, why I say, you know, I'm sorry to this game. When it came out, I did not enjoy it. I felt lied to, I felt betrayed, and it just didn't click with me. It's something that's like engraved in my head. I remember going to the midnight release of this game. In fact, this game is one of the last midnight releases I ever went to. 2014, so it's celebrating its 10-year anniversary. The only game I can vividly remember that I went to a midnight release after was Batman Arkham Knight, which was June of 2015. I think that game released 2 or 3 days before my birthday. I got it. I have a whole story to tell with that one as well. But Watch Dogs was probably the second to last game, you know, I actually went. So I just remember being so excited. I remember the GameStop actually having Watch Dogs playable. You know, you walk in and they got the playable PS4 and whatever. And I went with my 2 close friends I still talk to all the time. We've known each other since we were like 3 years old. They got shirts of Watch Dogs. I said, nah, it's okay. I don't need the shirt. They played it. I don't actually think I played it. I feel like I said, no. I want to wait till we get home. I want to try it when we get home. Went home, again, fired it up, and just was not impressed whatsoever. I think this game, honestly, is best when you completely forget about the premise that it was sold to us on. If you forget kind of the lies and just the blatant, hey, it looks one way and then it comes out, and this is one of the biggest, I'd say, downgrading scenarios that we've ever seen in our life, right? No Man's Sky is also an egregious one where there's just things in that first trailer that are just flat out. They didn't make it into the game for like the first 5 years. There's things that are that bad. I think that's probably worse than Watch Dogs, but I just remember, again, that E3, driving on the streets, pulling up the spikes on the cop car, Aiden running through the streets. It looked so good. It really was. Okay, the PlayStation 4 was, you know, just getting hot, and can this be the true next-gen game? Honestly, looking back now, I actually think this was a true next-gen game, and it's a lot of what we're about to talk about in this video. So, to catch us up to right now, well, number one, I had to buy it physically again, so I traded it in. I don't remember when I did that, but I did, because I know I got it day one at GameStop, or night one, and I must have given it away. So instead of going through the PlayStation Network and, you know, paying the $20 or whatever, I actually picked the thing up physically. So, again, as we've obviously talked about so much on the channel, it's good to have these things physical. There's not much to it. There's the inside. I mean, it looks good. The cover of this is always going to be also engraved in my head. Like, it just looks really, really nice, right? So, look, I played this game. I played it, honestly, way more than I thought I was going to play it. And I have to say something. I would say these words, I love this game. And I'm not saying, like, okay, you should know, like, from the size of the channel and the, you know, the viewership we get, I don't really do things for clickbait. Like, I try to make the titles and the thumbnails engaging, but, you know, we're not in the realm where we can even do clickbaiting, right? I genuinely mean that. I don't know what the problem was, maybe besides the lies, right, back 10 years ago, but playing it with a fresh set of expectations. And honestly, the expectations were, let's just try it out. I know I had strong feelings, but it's been 10 years. I haven't played it since launch. Now, I played Watch Dogs 2, and I liked it. I didn't like, thinking back, I don't know if I connected with the story or the characters, but I thought the gameplay was really, really fun. I thought it was just a really fun game to just experience, Watch Dogs 2. Legion, I remember being very, probably too excited for that game for whatever reason leading into it. Played it, I don't know, it didn't jive. Like, I thought I would like it way more. Honestly, maybe if I give both those games another look now, maybe I would like them more. But I'm genuinely serious. I would say I went from borderline hate, I hated the game, to borderline love right now. And I don't think that happens all that often. Like, really, there's not too many games I despise, like maybe some other games I despise. I should look back and see if they've done this like massive transformation. But this game is awesome. So let's actually talk about the game, long enough into this video, right? So a couple things I want to point out, right? Playing it 10 years later, playing it 10 years after the game has come out, it's actually really cool just to see like where they were in the era of open worlds. Like what kind of technology were they pushing? Does it not just does it hold up now, but putting myself back 10 years ago to think, these were just things that I didn't give them credit for. And it's one of the things that maybe my brain nowadays really laser focused in. I would tell people, as I was playing, like, you can be going out on the street and they'll be playing soccer with each other, and then all of a sudden it'll start, and this is actually a clip that I did not record. I recorded a lot of myself playing it, but not this part. But they were like, there was a person kicking a ball, I think, against a wall. Pretty dynamic, too. Like, it wasn't necessarily the same animation over and over. It starts pouring, and everybody evacuates. Everybody just leaves to go under something that's... They all, like, raise their hands and, put it over their heads. Small things like that, but that honestly happened all over the place. There were people playing badminton. Like, it was actually really, really cool, the level of detail and care that you saw around the world. There'd be random crimes. In fact, I think in the first maybe 10 minutes of me just being out into the world, I just had a random robbery, and then, you go chase them. That's outside of the side missions, right, where there is, like, an active crime happening, and you have to kind of stand there and wait for it to happen and then intervene. Honestly, I don't mind that at all, but the dynamics of the open world is something 10 years ago, honest. I mean, I was 17, I guess. I really didn't think about, but looking back at it now, I feel like it's a more dynamic world than 90% of open worlds nowadays, and it feels cool. It's also like, we don't get a lot of Chicago, you know what I mean? Like, I think it looks really nice. Like I mentioned, the rain, and I mean, it pretty much just goes back and forth between like rain and sunshine. But that's something like I said, I focused on pretty hardcore, and I think right now it deserves a lot of credit for. I just don't even see that in games nowadays, that attention to detail. It's a real living city. I saw crimes happening, like robberies inside like a gun store. I would run in, and sometimes I'd be late, and the person would be eliminated, let's say, and I have to chase the culprit, things like that. But like I said, with just soccer, or people would just be kind of doing weird, like, fun activities outside. Very, very cool. So I just wanted to give the dynamics of it a little credit there. But to be real with you, the entire game is actually very well rounded. I think as the game goes, the weakest part of the game might be the story. And I would say this, I actually really like the story. I think the more convoluted it gets, maybe I shouldn't even say it like that, the longer the story goes, and it starts to open up more into like DedSec and like different kind of the intricacies of like the hacking network, right? When it gets into that, I think it hurts a little bit more, but at the same time, I was doing a lot of side missions, so I was kind of breaking up the story missions. It didn't have a lot of flow to it, and that was my fault. But I think the basic idea of Aiden getting caught up in the situation where a loved one of his, gets eliminated as well, right? And he really holds that on himself. He caused it, right? And he isolates himself. And with Nikki, his sister, he isolates, and he tries to get back in their lives. And you have a former, I guess his former mentor, right? And Damien. There's some really cool characters. There's some really cool moments. And I think the premise just generally of just that, right? Like, he does stuff he's not supposed to do. He kind of steps over the line. A loved one of his pays the price. He lets that kind of beat him down for a very long time, actually. Then there's like other kidnapping things that happen. And I would say like the big moments of this game are actually quite good. I never beat it originally, but I know I looked it up. But I gotta be real, I forgot the major moments. So there's like there's a couple of things that happens. I don't want to spoil it. There's two moments, one of which is a character elimination that I thought, oh my, I remember seeing it, but I completely forgot about it, and I was like, holy dear God, no. It actually did hit me, so I was like, wow, they did good there. And then also the ending. I remember the ending. I think there's one too many things kind of going on in the ending, and you might know, if you know, basically, like one too many characters, basically, but I actually think the ending is kind of satisfying, and actually there's more to it where you get to make a couple decisions as well right after. So the big moments, and I would say the overall plot, Some of it is actually very simple, like kidnapping and losing a loved one. Actually kind of simple. It works. It actually really works in this world. And I think, I held this against him for the longest time. When I say him, I mean Aiden, right? So his voice, very much Batman, and I would always talk about his throat, and I don't know why he has to sound like it. Honestly, like just playing it now, does he have that much emotional range? No. Is he a good character? I actually kind of think he is. I think the voice actor is pretty good. I think his character is pretty good. And while his face never really changes, like, I actually kind of like him. He's just a different kind of main character than I feel what you would get in a game. Like, he kind of feels superhuman with his hacking abilities, even though he's not actually a superhuman. And I feel like that just makes him kind of stand out. So I respect that as well. You go into the open world. Honestly, I think one thing that did hurt this game, again, coming off the back of the E3 trailer, was when I'm playing it, I'm thinking, oh man, like, this is all you do. Like, there's not too many things to hack. And that is true. Let me just say, there isn't too much hacking in this game. Well, when I say too much, I mean diversity of hacks. But at the same time, and again, playing it now with kind of a fresh mind, you hack a lot, and it's actually quite fun. There's, of course, the profiling, which 95% of the time I think is really cool, right? It's cool to just see people go around and being like recovering addict or, whatever something would actually say about a person. Sometimes it'll show, and I found this actually very funny. Again, I don't know if I actually captured it, though. Sometimes it would show a picture that absolutely didn't go with the rest of it. So I remember one time, it was this it was like an old lady. In terms of her look, she was literally an old, maybe like 70s, 80s, and the age said 19. And I thought that's pretty fun because, you're going around with the phone and you can look at a lot of different people very, very quickly. Maybe the AI or whatever they were using to kind of randomize it, maybe it gets messed up, but I found that funny. But most of the time it works. And just kind of looking at like who these people are, their age. I always liked, even back then, I liked looking at their job. Like, what do they do for the job? And, it gives the job title and it gives kind of their I think their average, salary. I thought that was actually pretty fun. It doesn't really matter. And you could be hacking. Somebody could make like $40,000 and you could hack them for like $9,000. And it's like you just stole 1/4 of their yearly revenue just in an instant, because when you get the hacking things high up there, you can steal a lot of money. And I did. I took a lot of money from random people on the street. ATMs, I took a lot of them. I think, again, that's another, I guess it is dynamic, right? So in terms of the dynamic of the world, not just are people doing things and is there crimes breaking out. And, I've seen like fire trucks go down the street where people will stop and stuff. Pretty cool stuff. Not only that, but then you can also kind of look at everybody, whether they're in a car, whether they're not in a car. You can kind of see everybody, or I guess enemies even. Enemies tend to be a little bit more generic, like they're not as diverse in terms of the range of what they're doing and how much money they're making and stuff, but it's still pretty darn cool, and I give them a lot of respect for even doing it. So, okay, as I mentioned, like now we're going into more of the open world, and I mentioned the hacking. You hack a lot. We talk about the people. Well, what about like everything else? The game, I think, really starts to shine the more that you improve. And how do you improve? Well, you do a lot of the side stuff. You do a lot of the main stuff. You're going to get experience. You can put it into stuff. The first thing I did was put a lot towards hacking. Eventually, I did like body armor and things with weapons and stuff, but a lot of hacking, right? Because when you get good, and I guess by good, I mean when you get powerful, right? When you're blowing up the water mains, and when you're, like the traffic lights are pretty standard, right? Or some of the roadblocks or spikes or stuff. Those things are really, really fun, and it actually leads me to one of the game's biggest strengths that I really don't think I thought of as a strength back then is the driving. A lot of this game is driving. You're either driving from location to location or you're evading things, and you evade quite a bit. But to be honest with you, depending on the car you're driving, it's going to feel a little bit different. I felt very good driving a variety of things. I thought it was actually a lot of fun. And so much, like I said, of the game kind of revolves around it. You're going to need to evade or escape, so you're going to be using the traffic lights. You're going to be using the blockers and the spikes. And I didn't use it all that often, but you also have the items, right, where you can have the blackout. And the blackout is so freaking cool to actually pull on somebody, or like I said, rupturing the water pipe and being able to do that actually sometimes on yourself, or maybe sometimes you and an enemy. There's a few things here and there that I don't love about it. I think sometimes the enemy AI is a little finicky, or, you know, trying to escape something, they'll sometimes go like right next to you, and I feel like you should be able to kind of knock them off your trail a little bit easy. It's smaller things. It gets annoying here and there, but ultimately evading, whether it's trying to park in like a really quiet, like, you know, alleyway or whatever, right, where you're trying to escape, no matter what it is, I honestly had so much freaking fun just driving. And they put the convoy missions there where you have to stop. You know, there's a car and actually a group of many cars that's trying to get from one location to the next. You have to stop them on their way. And it's kind of wide open how you do it. You can crash right into them. You can use the traffic lights. You can maybe, and I've done this before, you can lift a bridge, right? So maybe 2 enemy cars drive over the bridge, but then you block the rest of them. Now you only have to deal with 2. That is the kind of simplicity with the hacking, because again, you know, you maybe have 6 to 8 hacking abilities, especially when you're in a car, right? Not too many. And I think later on in the games, like future games, you might be able to like even control other cars to start like driving a little Fast and Furious action, but not now, right? Raising bridges, doing the traffic lights, doing blockers, doing the water mains, a couple others maybe. So you got maybe 5, 6, 7 things to do. Not too many, but you're going to be using all of them to your advantage, and you kind of get to pick and choose how you want to do it. It's like that on foot as well. I actually think it shines more when you're driving. When you're walking and when you're using gunplay, I actually, again, want to shout out, I think the gunplay in this game is actually really good. It's not the deepest in the world, but it's kind of fun. Like, you have your focus, you have like your, your Red Dead type situation, or a lot of games actually do it, right? Slow down time and aim. I honestly didn't do it that much because I thought the game just handled gunplay really well. I like how you store all your weapons, so as soon as you pick up a gun, you have it. You can have, tens or dozens of guns on you at any given time, right? You move the wheel, and you might have 7 pistols. You just have to pick which one you want. There's tons of ammo, so you never have to worry about that. You jump camera to camera, and maybe you explode something. Maybe you distract something. Maybe you explode a phone on somebody, which is always really fun to do. Again, it's not too many. There's not too many things to explode. There's not too many things to distract, but it kind of gives you freedom to handle it the way that you want to handle it. I guess within a certain mean. And I honestly had a blast doing both. You know, I throw both in because you're doing the driving stuff quite often, and you're going to have to do that stuff, and I actually thought that was really fun. There's the contracts. I think they're fixer contracts where you drive from, like, one vehicle to the next, get out, get in the next one. I had a blast with that, where it's like you're on a time limit, and you might be driving a motorcycle, then you might be driving a truck, then you might be driving, like, a fast car, and, you don't want to damage it. You got to be careful, but you also have to get to the next place really fast. It just had a way of being a blast. And then even, again, on foot, there's a lot of parkouring. There's a lot of figuring out, okay, well, how am I going to get to this location? Do I go straight in? Do I go around? Do I take out enemies stealth? Do I take them out, aggressively? It gives you, again, a pretty okay means to do things. Then there's also like the mini games. And when I say mini games, I actually mean this in a variety of ways. There's mini games in terms of one of the things I really liked about this game were the intrusions, I think they're called, where you basically just have to look and kind of just turn 1 or 2 things, get the wires all blue, and then you can basically look in on any conversation. I did almost all of these, and I had an absolute blast because, honestly, they're about 20 to 40-second storytelling opportunities that I thought were really cool. There were some, like, abusive husband-type ones. I remember one where a guy was going to propose, like, his love for a girl. He had a flower at her door, and I think she was cheating on him, and he could hear it, and then he, like, threw the flower and left. Small little, again, 20, 30-second segments of you're really spying on people's lives, but it's cool. It was just a different kind of storytelling device. Honestly, at times, it was better than the main story just because it was so many, and it was just telling, different, diverse, kind of stories. I really liked it. So that's one mini game. Other mini games are kind of when it's like that web and it's all of the wires and you have to do the turns, of the honestly, I can see how some people don't like it. I actually really liked it. Whether it was timed, whether it wasn't timed, I like those kind of mini games where like you have to get power from one area to the next and you have to turn the current, a certain way. I'm kind of a sucker for those. But mini games, they also go into the side game content with the drinking mini game, or there's the one where the guy puts the ball in the cup and mixes the cups around, which, by the way, dynamic wise, pretty good. Like, he could hit a cup just like very barely on the side of his hand, and the cup would move a little bit. And honestly, most of them were really fun. I didn't do a lot of the AR missions, if that's even what they were called. I remember not really jiving with them originally. Honestly, actually, if there's anything in this game I didn't really jive with or just didn't care, I don't know if I didn't like it, because it was actually, like, there's like the zombie one where you're just kind of running people over. It's fine. I didn't really think it was like, amazing. I actually just found the world to be like, again, just walking down the street and seeing something happen. Again, the crimes, which they do get repetitive in the sense that, you got to find the target. They walk over to somebody. You have to wait for it to rise to like 80-90% likely, probability. They'll pull out a gun, and you got to run in there and knock them down before they freaking shoot the person. So, did it get boring or repetitive in that way? Yeah, but honestly, kind of cool, where it's like, okay, you got to wait for the crime to play out. And if you wait too long, like I talked about with the robbery in the store, I couldn't find the person. Like, the crime was in the area, right? And I was looking around, and then all of a sudden I hear a shot, and I see the guy running, and I was like, oh my God, and I went through the store, and I said, oh my God, he killed the shop owner. I didn't even realize it. So, like, those, again, that's a dynamic kind of moment, but that's also just side content in this game that I thought was really, really good. Honestly, top to bottom, the game, and we went from, like I said in the beginning of the video, from borderline hate to borderline love. The game looks good. As a 2014 game 10 years later, I think this game was ahead of the curve. The dynamics of the open world, I think, was ahead of the curve. The gunplay is absolutely serviceable. I don't know if it's amazing, but I had a lot of fun with it. The car play was really, really good. The story was serviceable. Aiden as a character, I actually like a lot more now than I did back then. The hacking is fun. I wouldn't even say fun enough. Like, it's fun. It doesn't have the diversity that, like, the future games are going to have, but it was enough to keep me entertained, whether I was on land or on foot, or what. I mean, actually, there is, like, boats, so whether it's on sea or on air or anything like that, the game is just honestly a blast. So, and I got to be real, like, when I played this, I think I already had 20 hours into this game, right? Like, PlayStation, sometimes it doesn't do a great job all the time, but PlayStation will, track your thing. I think when I started this game, I'd already played it back in the day for 20 hours. Going back in, I got to be real. Like, I thought, okay, Watch Dogs is next up, on this channel. I'm going to play it 5, 7, 8 hours. Like, let's just see, how it is. And because I didn't have many expectations, but I did remember obviously hating it. Like, that's tough to, get away from you. So I thought, okay, well, pop it in. Let's see if I still hate the game. Honestly, maybe that's how I kind of went into it. And, at first it's like, yeah, this is by the books. The beginning of it, you're in the stadium and you shut down the power, and that's a pretty cool opener, right? Like, that's very dynamic. I keep using that word. That's like the word of this video, but it was very, very cool. But, after that, they're teaching you how things go. A lot of the missions are just opening up side things to do and whatnot, right? Whether it's showing you costumes or how to order cars on demand or, whatever, stuff like that. Okay. But then as it kept going, I was like, yeah, I don't know. Will I only play this for 5 hours, or, am I going to stop now? But then I thought, you know what? No, this is actually really fun. And before you know it, I think I put in about 25 hours, and I did most things. Maybe not all side activities. I kind of picked and choose a little bit, but I did the full story, which I didn't do originally, and I did quite a bit of the side stuff, including I only did the main mission part of this, but there's also the online mode, which we didn't even mention, right? Cool concept. Obviously, it's tough to know right now if it's still working all that great, because not a lot of people are playing it. But the idea that people can invade your world and they can hack, and you have to try to find them, and they have to kind of stay incognito, kind of like Assassin's Creed, honestly, but in a much wider field of view, and I get more characters and more things going on. I liked it when Assassin's Creed tried it with whatever, Brotherhood or whatever it was. I liked that. I remember trying Watch Dogs. I think I remember liking it because I could play with my friends, the ones that, they were also disappointed, by the way. It wasn't just me, but I remember doing it with them. And at the time, it had some inherent fun, right? Because you're going in, you're kind of messing with other people's worlds. They have to find you, and you have to hide and whatnot. Pretty cool. I wouldn't say, I didn't test it enough to know if it's a blast now, but, that was just another extra part of the game. The soundtrack, didn't talk about that either. Smashing Pumpkins, my favorite band, they got a song in this one, so I always kind of play that on repeat, but there's some pretty good music here, and you kind of steal songs from people, as you can steal money, you can steal songs, or cars and things like that as well. So I think it's a very well-rounded game. To be honest with you, extremely well-rounded, much more well-rounded than I gave it credit for, and this is why, to end this video, this is why I like doing this. Like, you know, this channel is giving me the opportunity to go back. And like I said, maybe not every game is going to do this, but this game had like a part of, like, it had a negative part to my heart. You know, there was like a blackness to my heart because of this game. And I'm glad, you know, because of the 10-year anniversary, I definitely wanted to check it out. I'm happy because I think I legitimately love this game. I think it's a great game, and I don't think I would have tried it again if it wasn't for doing this stuff. So I'm happy I did it, and I honestly had a blast playing it. And the next game I played, which if you know, you also know, I actually think this game might be better. Now, this game is newer than it, so it's got technology and other kind of things, but if you would have told me that 2 weeks ago that I'd be liking Watch Dogs more than I like this next game next week we're going to talk about, I would have, I don't even know what I would have done to you. I probably at least would have laughed at you, but here we are. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about Watch Dogs. Have you played it recently? What do you think? Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and buckle yourself in again because next week we got a big one as well. Thank you all for being here, and I'll see you all on the next video.